Just
Start over on the left.
sorry for interrupting.
Want to introduce yourself?
Oh, okay.
Out of the way, hello, I'm Liam. I go by the maker name Hello Labs.
Yeah. Did you get anything? I'm Middle Earth, but I'm
This is Chad. He has a pizza in his hand.
Take a bite.
I'm Chad. I go with Matt Chad, Rubber Hose. Nice to see everybody.
Hey, I'm Kudos of Gaff.
And I am Kate. I go by Cooper.
Hi guys, I got a few good questions here, so I figured I'll just jump on in. As far as the hobby's grown over time, especially with COVID, the way it's impacted things, the slowdown since. Do you guys have any insight on how you feel things are going from this point forward, and how it's impacted things in the past?
Should we go down the line this way or that way?
Yeah, you got the mic. Want to start?
Do you want to start or you want me to start? Okay. I joined the hobby back in like 2018 is when I got more involved in like Discord servers and stuff, and I would honestly say like going through the peak of like the hobby during COVID and having been through it beforehand, I feel like it's kind of just normalized. It feels back to where it was kind of when I started getting into it, and I don't really mind that. When COVID stuff was happening and the hobby was like so crazy, it was just like, it was almost a little stressful to be someone who was like producing stuff, because it was like I don't know, it was just stressful. It was stressful that there's so many eyes on you, and like these people weren't like, hadn't been around for a long time. You didn't recognize all their names and everything. But now it's a little bit more normal, and I recognize people and I know their names and stuff, and it's a little easier now, I feel like. So I like it. I like the way it is now.
I agree. I think the big thing with COVID was the stimmy checks. It was crazy. It was like a new artisan maker every day, which is cool. But I think what Leo says resonates, that like it's kind of getting back to its, I mean it's still growing, but it's getting back to its, maybe its roots, where you know people, things like this, like you could look out and you recognize pretty much everybody's face, which is nice. It's what we want. The community is the best part. So basically, I agree with that.
I took my hiatus in 2019. I think I come back into 2024. So I pretty much missed all of COVID. The only difference I see nowadays is I feel like back then, like the hype kids, the flippers, were more integrated into the community, but they dipped out. So the only change I see now is like the flippers that join the sales are based on like what the cook server's telling them to do, so it all comes in a big clump, so it's easier to filter them out. But that's pretty much the only difference.
I'd say for me, for COVID, things got pretty crazy, but it gave me the confidence I needed to like accept that I could do this as more than a hobby. So that was nice. I was like, oh, there are lots of people who don't realize that. So that was great because it gave me a push to do it. And after the sales dropped off, at first it was like, oh, but I have still plenty of people who are interested, and it's really nice because I feel like it's more of a artist community now. Artists can take it seriously as something beyond just like a few crew people working at. So it's been nice overall. I think the trajectory was like a huge spike, but overall it's still going up.
So just to piggyback off of that, I know there's a lot of different like sales formats you guys use. Do you have any preferences on the way you do things, or you maybe want to change the way things go now with how things have changed over time? I know there's like raffles, first come, first served, etc. So, what are your thoughts?
It's really hard to maintain the balance of. It's hard to please everyone, I'll say, because a lot of people are around in the hobby like constantly. They like love being on Discord and talking to people, and that's probably more so the people that show up to things like this. But then you also have to think about the type of people who passively, you know, like these people don't show up to meetups, maybe they're not in Discords and stuff like that, and they want sales to be like accessible and like easy to enter, like 24 hours long, you know, like they want the opportunity to purchase your work, and they like it based on the merit of like, they just like it as like a thing, you know, they don't think about it as much as like it's like a collector's thing, it's like social cloud or something. And so it's hard to balance between people who probably would be really excited if I threw up like a first come first served sale like right now, versus the people who get really, really upset if I did, because they just like it for what it is and not like an exciting social thing, you know? Yeah.
I think a lot of people are getting back to when I started collecting a lot of different things, like conventions, Hunger Games, some of the saltiest I've ever been. I had a thing in my car and I didn't get it. And now, like, I know Marcus he has his own little ping server and he's doing stuff like that, which is fun for his own for server. Devon's got the tomato thing and he's been trading. I know him; he hasn't really been that active in the trading, and that brought him back. So I think doing stuff like that is community oriented, and maybe first come first serve, just to throw it in the mix or whatever. I don't know, but I think when the people are having fun, and I think there needs to be losers. You know, it's gotta be yin and yang, because the win has to feel sweet, right? Like when you get gavel, it's like how many times you get that like how many years? When you do it, it's sweet, dope. But yeah, I think more the grassroots thing. I don't know. I don't even remember the actual question.
It's just about sales formats, like what your preferences are.
Yeah. Well, I think having fun. I think everybody just enjoys the hobby. I don't know.
I like doing things like first come first serve and like ARGs and having fun with people, but at the end of the day, you know, the more restrictive your sales format is, the more people you're going to upset. So sometimes when you don't want to deal with like the blowback, you just do 24-hour raffle. You have to think like, what is the format that's going to hurt the least amount of people? Like Chad said, I think there is value in losing. It just makes your win that much better when you get it. But you know, for me, it's like, well, how many caps did I actually produce? You know, if it's a low amount, I can play games like that. But if it's like just a standard production, I just keep it real safe.
I think sale formats for me, if I had to pick my favorite kind, it would be web sale, because I don't have to do any work. It's just all done. But the favorite of people seems to be a 24-hour raffle. And anything in between, I try to accommodate. Most of it is on people pleaser, so I do surveys, and everyone says they like different formats. And I'm like, all right, well, every sale is a different format then. Try to just keep people happy with it, because I don't know, it's easier for me in the long run to have people that are not salty, even though salt is a core ingredient for a lot of hype. It's just hard for me to manufacture. But anyway, yeah, I try to do every sale format I know of, and if I haven't done one, you know.
Look like you want to say something.
I did, I kind of forgot it. But, well, okay, I thought of it. A big part of what makes the trickier sales fun is that like it encourages people to like talk to each other. Like I think it's really fun when I was in the hobby to like when ETF puts up the Poison Summer, like the original ones, and everybody in the Geek Hack thread like complaining about whether or not they won or not. Like it's a lot of fun to have things that like encourage people to be social with one another. That's just like, but maybe that's like my perspective as like someone who's like a little bit on the outskirts of it. I just like seeing people talk and like have a good time with each other, because that's a big part of why I got involved in the hobby at all, or like to have stuck around this long, is because the people really matter a lot.
You know, I do want to touch on one thing though, as far as like commissions go. Personally, I'm a big fan of them, if for no other reason than the participatory aspect that comes along with it, and having a sense of like ownership and input in a piece of art that you really love. It really just really makes something shine in a person's collection. So I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on not just commissions, but that element of it.
I don't really do them, so I'll let Chad answer.
I do. I like that. I like them for that reason. For they get to participate in. They have their vision, and they like your stuff, so it's flattering. You want them to be happy, but then there's also the flip side where you lose a lot of your own creative agency unless you set up a good boundary. You know what I mean? Some people are just like, I like this color, that color, and just go wild with it. And that's cool. But even that, even though it's pretty vague, it already takes away from your creative agency. It might not be something that you had planned on making or want to make. But I've done a lot of commissions, and it's fun. But I think it's a balance. And anybody who does want to run a commission, I do appreciate when they're cognizant of that aspect. Where it's like, because I've had people that are like, it has to be this shade or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, which is fine. That's really what they want, but as a maker, it's not as fun. It's like, maybe I want to do something, give me the idea, and then we can sort of 50-50. You know what I mean?
It's that engagement aspect of it.
I haven't done commissions since I've been back. There's a part of me that wants to do it, but I'm coming back from a 5-year hiatus. I don't know most people, and as a result, I don't know who's easy to work with. I don't know who's not easy to work with. I don't know who's more demanding or whatnot. I think there's a place for commissions, and like Chad said, it's about setting your boundaries and like being fair with it. I think it's really easy when you're doing commissions to like go down this slippery slope where like you're booked out, and then nobody has access to public sales. That's what I'm really afraid of. So. It's something that I've been thinking about doing, but I don't want to just go into it and just start commissions. I want to really think about like how I can approach it in a way where I can set those boundaries and make it fair for everybody.
For me, for commissions, initially I was just a hard no for like 8 years most of the time. And it wasn't until like just recently, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, I took my first round of commissions. I used to be a hard no because stifling creativity, and I don't want to be holding someone. I know it's going to take me like a year, and they're going to be like, "Where's my stuff?" So I wouldn't do it. But in the last couple of years, I've kind of come around because people ask me all the time to do it, and then some people are just like, "I'm just going to PayPal you this much money, and then if you make a lose it, be mine." I don't like that. I like transparency. So eventually, I open up commissions specifically to people who are in my patron, and it's like a lottery, and they get 4 slots. And I don't do any more commissions until I finish those. And I put it in this thing where like, this could take a year. And yeah, commissions have been great. I look at it now as more of a set of parameters to work within, which is kind of fun than having to be creative all the time. Because initially, I wanted to be creative all the time, but now it's fun to like turn on and be like, oh, I don't think about it. I'm just going to do this as a commission. So I think commissions are great at give a little bit of extra money and give people what they want. So commissions are nice.
So, just to kind of piggyback off of that, talking about community engagement, I know over time, the way people engage with the community, especially makers, has changed. There's the Slack, CAC, Reddit days, and now we have the Discord era we're in, essentially, right? What are your thoughts on the shift that we've had and how things are different from how they used to be versus now because of that shift?
I don't know, it's a hard question. The way, I guess I can only speak from what I do. My server, I don't let people talk in because when I was introduced into the hobby, like, it was really nice and welcoming to have a space that was not dictated by like a brand or a person. Like my introduction to the hobby was Reddit, like MetKeys or whatever, and in that space, people were like on equal footing. Like it felt like nobody was like in charge, except for it's a little more like welcoming and open to not be like, if you're in someone's server, you kind of like, that person gets put up on this huge pedestal and all their work gets put up on this pedestal, and I feel like not really any interesting conversation happens. It's all these people who like kind of coalesce and like, they're like, you're so awesome, but like, if they don't have that as a pretext, then it's like the conversations are much more natural. They talk about their lives, they get to know each other more. That's kind of like what I like. And then when these discourses splinter off, it just kind of creates like different social groups in the hobby, which I don't. In my perfect world, everyone talks in the same Discord, which I know isn't realistic, but that's just in my perspective. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to balance. I like everyone in the same place and everyone getting along, but it's not realistic all the time. So,
You want KBRs?
yeah.
I mean, it was fun. I mean, that's where I got in, and it was like, I think the community aspect is, I guess it was kind of small, so me not knowing, even though I was a collector for a while on Reddit and everything, going into the Discord was really, this is almost like you're learning the ropes. You're like, who's this guy? I'm just like, I collect cats. I'm just here to hang out. And part of that, almost rite of passage, I want to say, was cool. I don't know if that's what you're referring to necessarily. Just open discourse without any. Yeah, I like that. I like open Discord. I mean, people talk about Discord, and there's definitely like, you can flatter your ego and all that stuff. I try not to foster it or pay too much attention. It's died down. I mean, in the heyday, it definitely was like that. You could easily let it go to your head, but I think the important thing is just remembering that these people pay money and we're doing what we love, and we're lucky to do it. I'm just, I'll do it as long as I can, and I don't know. I mean, I think like what you said is if we could get back to that sort of everybody on equal footing, in whether it's a big Discord or something. I have no idea what the future's going to look like in terms of communication, but I think I'm optimistic that it's going to be more like what Liam's saying. It's going to be hopefully more. I don't know. We're just going to love each other, hug. We're all going to make out.
I think as a maker, like, you kind of have to strike a balance between your public presence and your personal presence. And I think, when you make art, you've invested a lot of time and effort into it. And personally for me, when I was starting back in like 2015 to like 2019, I did take things personally. I might not have externalized that, but I remember talking to ETF, and he's like, "Why are you even involved in the community at all?" There's a certain level of insulation that you have to have. But I also believe that it's important to engage with people, figure out what the feedback is, whether or not they like a style, whether or not they like a sales format. So it's this constant balance between like making yourself somewhat available but not fully available, and that's a tough one for me. In terms of like how fragmented Discords are. I feel like that's always been the case, even starting this lab. So, as much as I'd like to, shoot the shit with everybody, it's a lot easier to just have like a gap one, just so I can be like, hey, there's a sale, or like, here's a discount. Whereas, if I were to jump into like the Reddit Discord, KBRs, whatever, it's like there's more conversation going on, and I don't necessarily have the time or like mental capacity to do it. So.
It's rough. There's a million different ways to communicate with people now. I get like Instagram DMs, emails, website emails, Discord. I'm not a very social person. I like to talk to people and be around them, but that aspect was hard for me. When I came into the community, it was through KeyCon, and I spent a lot of time there because there was a lot of information, people contributing to information. And now I find that severely lacking. Even if people have an intelligent conversation on Discord, you cannot locate it again. And like being part of it, like necro it. Whereas like my community engagement came from sharing information and knowledge and like tutorials and stuff. So I've had a pretty hard time the last, 5 or 6 years connecting with people, which I really miss. So I just try to get out to these things as much as I can and really meet the people behind names so that like there is this community. Because running my own Discord does feel very much like instead of being part of the community, I'm like the maker of a bubble. Everyone in that bubble already likes my work. Like they already think that they buy my stuff.
think coming to things like this is a real big part of that. Like going forward, especially now that it's a lot more open. Ideally, you can fill in that gap.
Yeah.
Hopefully, grow organically. So, change gears a little bit. As far as like techniques that you guys use, regularly. Then we've got like resin writing, and then there's physical sculpting, 3D sculpting. What are your guys' preferences and why? Why do you do what you do? Why do you lean in the direction that you do
I prefer, I don't really have a problem with 3D printed stuff. As long as the design is like particularly good. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm open to it, I don't have any problem with it. So I like handmade stuff. I feel like there's some weird aspect of doing stuff by hand where it's not perfect, and that adds a lot to it. Like, nothing in nature is really symmetrical, and I feel like your brain kind of picks up on something when it's like a little too perfect, and something gets lost. I don't know what it is, but there's something of the human aspect that adds a lot to whatever it is you're making. And so I do that through my work as well. I try to do everything as like analog as possible, and like avoid like CAD stuff when I can. In terms of casting techniques, when I started, my biggest, I don't know, when I started, it seemed like the coolest caps that people really wanted were all resin writing. And then it was a thing in my head where it was like, well, if you want to get noticed, every cap that has resin writing is like respected in the community, regardless of what it is. And so I just thought, I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try really hard and get really good at that one specific thing, and then that's how I'll like get people's respect, And so I still do that now. I think resin writing is kind of taken over in like a weird way, where my thinking is like looped all the way back to where like I just really like clean casting, clean lines, like really good layer separation, like old ETF, like the stacks and stuff. Just like the era of caps when I got into it, like not even that the caps were like super complicated or anything, or like the sculpture super complicated, but like the colors were just like really nice, and like the opacity was all there. That's kind of what I'm trying to like come back to. So I like clean casting, and obviously I still do resin writing, but I feel like the hobby's shifted so much in that one specific direction that I feel like it'd be nice if it shifted back a little bit, at least for me. That's like a selfish thought, but yeah.
Obviously I've always loved the analog. I love making things. I mean, when I first started making stuff, I dabbled with it. I didn't know what I was doing. But this was like years before I actually started out in sales. And I looked at Uber's threads, I looked at Binge's threads, and they were always, I'd like look at them, and they were really inspiring. The idea of making something, like sculpting. I didn't really sculpt anything before, and so I was just practicing on. I got one of the things like two pointer or something. Maybe it was one. It was one of the prongs. And that whole process of like, this is how you make something, and I can do it. I mean, it didn't really take much other than a pressure pot. Some people can get away without using that, but that whole I use it. Yelled at. That it was just like this. It was so cool seeing it, and then a lot of people were trying to do it, and definitely could. But then there's like people who I felt like they were standout people that were like, that guy's so talented, or whatever. And you're like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to make something cool. Not for the cloud or anything like that, but it's like how cool this person did, and then they're constantly pushing the envelope. I also took a hiatus. It was like during the crypto phase. I thought I was going to become a millionaire. I think I lost like thousands of dollars. Remember ICOs? It was like I never even got my coins. So anyway, I came back right before I got married. I think I saw the food Hulu, and I was like, I need one of those, yeah. And then I came back, and that's when I think Gaff was like, he'd come back as Gaff, and you're looking at his technique. I'm looking at it, it's like the clean, it's like the way he layers, like the translucency, the level of layering. Particularly, I think it was a TV that I Uber always had her particular style that was like cute but really well done, and she's always been really good with like, I guess the characterization of the thing. So you could really come up with like everybody has animals, but how are you going to do this one animal? You know, I think I was talking to Kyle or something, but it's like a cool prompt would be like, give somebody like a whatever, like animal or something, and then how would you all do this? And I like that it would all be like a different thing. It doesn't have to be your necessarily your current style, or whatever, but like we all come up with something different, and that's the beauty of it. So I think just anyway, grassroots, doing stuff from hand. I don't have anything against 3D printing. My butts are from 3D printing system. I don't have plans here, but I mean that makes that part's easy. I do respect people who sculpt their own butts. Blue caps, paint, that thing looks like a fucking pain in the ass, honestly. Sorry. And it's awesome. I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time before, like 2017, where having a 3D printed butt was a bit of a faux pas, you know. So things have changed. I think it was since Synth, and then Z-Butts, and then Blend, you know, it became the standard. But, you know, you look at like an old cap from like Corey, and the butts are hand cut. So is there a place for 3D printing? I absolutely think there is, because, you know, the very nature of collecting caps is you have a lot of demand and not a whole lot of supply, right? So I think 3D printing stuff kind of fills the void for people who just want a cap, because not everybody coming in wants to look for a specific cap. They just want to make their keyboards look cool. And I would say probably like more than 75% of the people who get into Artisans, you know, that's their only goal. They're not hunting a specific colorway from a specific maker from a specific time. So I think there's a place for that. You know, I personally, you know, my preferences, like these guys here, is, you know, what I was into when I started. So I'm very much into sculpts. I'm very much into multi-shots. You know, I remember seeing some of the resin writing that Liam was doing, and I was like, this guy's pushing the envelope. He's like really changing it up, you know. And I think having your peers push that envelope drives you to be better. So instead of stagnating when people come out with new techniques, it makes you want to, you know, try it, be good at it. So I think it's all healthy in terms of competition. In terms of like where I see currently trends, you know, since I came back, I noticed that there's a lot more people who want sculpted blanks. For somebody who comes from a background of just sculpts, that's been a transition for me, but, you know, I've come to warm up to it for sure.
Okay, so for resin writing, I think that it's really cool, and some people do a really good job. I'm not a huge fan of doing it myself. Mostly because just like, I don't know, it's not what I enjoy the end result of my particular sculpts. I find that my sculpts don't have a lot of good like spots to draw on. But again, like your peers doing these things, and making the ETF, like that's insane. It makes me inspired to do cool stuff and do their job and to do some more like resin writing in at least the eyes of my character and stuff. I think
You're so good at the eyes for
but yeah, it's like, it really spurred me to try to do something new and something different. And your peers, it's a trend. It's like, well, people like this, you know, why should I not like it too? So I think it's fun. Whatever trend is, everybody tries to like some things. As far as 3D printing, for me, I would say I like art with a certain amount of finish. However an artist gets to that end result, I don't really care. I don't like seeing 3D print lines on things, but if there's not 3D print lines and it's not like super symmetrical, and I like the sculpt, I'm gonna buy it. Like, I'm like, oh no, you 3D sculpt. Artists have tools, and for some artists that tool is an iPad, you know, and 3D printer. For some it's a lot of clay. For some it's a stone that they shine up. You know, I'm not here to gauge anybody's method of production, but I do personally like a certain amount of finish and a creativity, and as long as you're not using 3D sculpt to make symmetrical, you know,
you know, we've got a little bit of extra time before the next session. Are you guys open to taking a few questions from people? Okay, cool. Any takers?
This is going back to commissions. I had like two thoughts about when you guys were talking about that. Do you guys ever think it's a good idea if someone just lets you like they give you a reference and then you just like have full freedom over like the commission, or do you think it's a bad idea?
Trying to get a plug.
For me, it's not much different than just being like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make a colorway. Like, I would rather someone tell me pretty much exactly what they want, so that what they think they want and what I make isn't the same. Like, working in graphic design, I've realized quickly that people say, do whatever you want, and they see it, and they're like, wait, I didn't need to do whatever you want. I just didn't realize that I didn't need to do whatever you want. So, I prefer when I'm doing commissions for people to have a solid idea, at least, of what they want. Because it's easier for me to do pricing as well. I have pricing based on number of colors and like different sculpts and number of work. So it really helps with my pricing and my feedback to like know what we're looking for personally.
I think as a maker, it's much easier if someone tells you exactly what to do. But as someone that's going to commission, I love to tell artists to just do whatever you think is cool, especially if I really like their work. Somehow it gets them to like push themselves a little more than maybe they usually would, and you get to see a lot of times something really cool come out of it. But I will say, as a person that makes up, that would really annoy me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, like Cooper said, sometimes you just want to be, it's like, you just do this. If I already don't want to do the idea or whatever, but I'm doing it, then yeah, sure, the directions are cool. But I also like it when, my favorite commissions are the ones where people give you just the right amount of direction, just the right amount of, one, they're already fan your work, so I like this, I like what you do, and I know you're going to do something awesome. Here's whatever, this is the inspiration, just go crazy. Those are the ones that are most fun to me, and also more obviously creatively stimulating. But I don't think there's anything, I've definitely done, people like will mock it up and like, oh, you gotta put the line right here, and it's gonna be this color, and then you play it.
Yeah, in terms of commission, in the past, I prefer to have some level of parameters. I want you to match it to GMK far plug. But I don't like when it becomes a thing where it's almost micromanaged, or they might not be aware of how complicated something is. They're like, I want racing stripes over the eyeballs. Like, you don't want to be like you don't want to be the guy that's like, okay, I can do that, but you're going to get a lot of failure, and you're going to be paying a lot of money. So I like parameters, but I don't want it to be to a point where it feels like I'm being micromanaged, or like I want them to be able to manage their expectations on what something's going to look like.
Yeah, so we're all kind of part of a community here, right? And I think as a community member that's on the acquisition side, I think it's tough always for like. Okay, shut up. Okay, I think as makers you're always in tough positions, right? Because you're a community member, but sometimes there's like a double standard about that. You're not supposed to be critical of things. Is there one toxic trait of the community that you'd like to see stamped out that you'd be willing to name? I mean, NFTs are pretty much gone. So
Yeah. Well, I like when the community is like a very open and welcoming place. So the people that kind of like, it doesn't happen in the place that I'm at currently, but like when I was in Artisans, there were like a couple of sour apples out of like the whole cool people, and then it only takes a couple of those people to kind of like drive everyone else away, and those people don't really realize what they're doing. And like, I think it's just a matter of human nature for discourse to like get really, really good, and then suck, and then people just don't talk there anymore. So if I could do one thing, it would be like, I want everyone to get along.
I think we have time for like one more. Anybody else?
Don't
Oh, right.
sculpts to like sculpted links now. What are some other trends that you guys have noticed in your time making? How do you like them? How do you not like them? Just your thoughts on like other trends, I guess.
I think even at the meetup downstairs, you see a lot of caps that have been pushing the envelope. We always want, like Cooper and Kudos were saying, pushing the envelope is always good. It's good for the hobby. It's good for us. It's healthy competition, and it makes you want to be better. So when you see certain things like Mastodon's downstairs, and he like debuted his new technique. It's like a cholo low rider playing. It looks cool as hell. And it's different, and you know, like it makes you. Anytime that I look at the cap, I'm like, how do they do that? That's a good thing to me. So I love, you know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Obviously, people are getting really crazy with resin writing, like just painting the fucking Mona Lisa and shit. And it's like legitimately good. Like, someone showed me the Dali one. JQ showed me the Dali one from Inkblot. I was like, what the fuck? It's crazy. But yeah, so resin writing, whatever, just different techniques. If you haven't seen Massey's thing, it's really interesting. It's like an incapped. It looks like a cholo low rider. That's really cool.
I don't know, in terms of trends, things seem to come and go. Right now, the trend seems to be super hyper detailed resin blanks, which are really cool. And then, I don't know, these things just ebb and flow. And you know, like for a while, like when after the albumin came out, that was like a really trendy style of like encapsulating like some small object in a blank, and that was a big thing. Yeah. I don't know, you just notice things. I'm sure we'll find the next thing pretty soon, you know? I don't know. It's fun seeing the way people can approach the same 2 cubic centimeter idea from so many different angles, you know? It's fun.
I think a trend I'm noticing lately too is like modified versions of a sculpt. Whereas used to there's like a V1, a V2, a V3 if you're lucky. Now there's like 1,000 versions of one sculpt, which is really cool, and it also pushes me to do like different versions. There's my new version, I can like actually make them like up. But there's some that are really impressive. Every time I have a sale, they've got like another sculpt or addition to their sculpt, which I think is really impressive. And like I said, it's kind of pushing me to try to sculpt more and make changes and to sculpt things that I can make changes to. So that's kind of a trend I've noticed too, is the modification of sculpts.
I think it's all really important for us as artists to see new trends and see new techniques. I mean, there's stuff from like nail art and like dice making that eventually make its way into like the resin keycap community. And I think without innovation, there's stagnation. So yeah, I welcome all the trends and stuff like that. I mean, I personally wish I had like a sculpt that had like surfaces that I can resin write on. So, you know, there's definitely stuff that I would love to emulate and try. It's just a matter of being able to experiment with those things within the parameters of like what your personal style is. So.
All right, one more thing, as quickly as you can without any context. Favorite piece of art outside of this space for each of you?
Nighthawks, Edward Hopper. So good.
So good.
Oh, yeah, I love the twine.
If you don't have an answer, that's fine.
That's the
last
I
thing.
love the
Yeah,
twine.
I love so much stuff.
I
It's
know.
hard for me to
Me too. Me too. If there's no answer, it's fine.
I have this skateboard. Well, it's mine, so I guess it's mine. But it's like somebody made a skateboard design. That's my favorite piece of art. My son, this is my favorite piece of art. The only answer.
Which one?
Obviously the older one. I'm just kidding, no.
It's recorded, Chad.
Oh, I love you.
All right, hey, really, thanks for everything, guys. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks, guys.